Just perfect. You couldn't, like, throw me a friend every once in a while? Like, sincerely? Like...
Oh, welcome to...
Oh, we're recording now?
I gave the count.
We're gonna start... You gave the countdown, and then we started testing the mic. And then I got frustrated, because someone has to get in your Tinder match every 5 minutes. And I'm just sitting here, and I'm like, great, so happy for you.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to Film Nerds Hour.
With your hosts, Noah Sweeto.
And Nathaniel Shoemaker.
Alright,
Let's give him a second to compose himself. It's very... You have said in the past it is very difficult to make you laugh, and I am glad it is so freaking easy for me. It's not even funny. All I have to do is act frustrated and pissed, and get my voice all squeaky, and you are nothing but laughter. It's fantastic. So good.
Alright. Today we got a special treat for October, and that is the original adaptation, film adaptation of Frankenstein.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from
yes.
1931, starring Boris Karloff as the titular Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein.
Yes. Which is...
Universal Monsters.
Universal Monsters, which, as if any of you guys have followed anything with Tom Cruise's The Mummy, which I still haven't seen.
Didn't start the universe they wanted to.
Yeah, kind of underwhelmed, but...
Yeah, well, and there was that whole controversy because they had it open with the whole dark universe thing, but that's copyrighted by another company, so they kind of got sued. But, you know.
Yeah, I mean... It definitely didn't pick off as well as the original, but yeah. I'd still be open to seeing it.
Me too. It bums me out because they had like all the cast picked, like everything. Like Johnny Depp was supposed to be the Invisible Man,
which I have not seen the new Invisible Man yet.
It's great. It's great.
I have heard that people were like, as soon as they saw that, a lot of people are saying we definitely want to see. Like that was the movie that was like nobody expected to be even a quarter as good.
It was so good,
especially for a remake, which I don't even consider that a remake. I think they called it a reboot.
Yeah, it's very much like same title, same concept, but it's kind of like saying The Hollow Man was a remake of The Invisible Man, and it wasn't.
Yeah, which I said the other day to somebody. I'm like, remakes and reboots, which I know we talked about, are two very different things.
Yeah, Jay and Silent Bob reboot go over that.
Yeah, which I told people that about this group I'm on Facebook for. They were talking about the Chucky reboot and how it was so awful, series? And I'm like,
with Mark Hamill.
I'm like, it wasn't a bad movie.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie at all.
And I'm like, I would consider it more of a reboot than anything, because I'm like, reboot is defined as either a continuation, a soft remaking of the original with the same cast, or a retelling from a different angle with different actors.
Yeah. While
still following the basic concept of its original source material.
Exactly.
And I think they did it really, really well.
Yeah, Mark Hamill as the voice of Chucky. Hell yeah. And I'm so happy with that.
We'll definitely have to review that, because that didn't use half as much of like Watch Dogs hacking and stuff that I thought it was going to use. Yeah. Which made me that much happier. I loved it.
Exactly. So. But Frankenstein,
Frankenstein, the original adaptation, which, how many have there been? I mean, there's young...
Yeah, there's young Frankenstein, which is hilarious. And then
with Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder, oh, so good. Rest in peace, that man. I'm so bummed that I never got to meet him.
There's I, Frankenstein.
Frankenweenie, I would say is...
That, I wouldn't count that, necessarily.
I mean, it's the same... It's a similar concept, I'd say.
I guess. Aaron Eckhart was in the
Is it I, Frankenstein, where he's like fighting angels and demons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Aaron Eckhart got a chance to play him. Victor Frankenstein had Matthew, or not Matthew, James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe as Igor, which is great.
Yeah.
Which, do you want to say that fun little tidbit about Victor Frankenstein? I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, so a big misconception, turns out, because there is a character in this movie named Victor, but he is the friend of the main character, Henry Frankenstein. And it even says, if you look up the 1931 Frankenstein movie, it even says that Colin Clive is Victor Frankenstein, and that the other guy is Victor Moritz, John Bowles. But it turns out Henry Frankenstein was his name. So I don't know if that was something that was lost in translation, because pretty much every other adaptation of Frankenstein, the guy's name is Victor Frankenstein. And to their credit, that does roll more off the tongue. I haven't read the book in a while. I can't remember if it actually is Victor Frankenstein in the book, or if they just changed it to Henry for the sake of... I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't quite.
Yeah.
Same with Igor, though.
Yeah, Igor in this movie is just a guy named Fritz.
Yeah, not defined as
He looks like a hunchback, but he's
yeah, all the same characteristics that Igor has.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of Frankenstein adaptations. One that's really I've heard only good things about, or no, oh yeah, this is the one that like has a great cast but is bad.
Here, grab a pen real quick.
Huh?
I'm grabbing a pen real quick.
Okay.
So,
want me to entertain people while you're grabbing a pen?
Go ahead. Show me the facts.
He's grabbing a pen and I'm filling some time. I apologize if you just clicked off. My bad. All right. Was that the kind of strong improv you were looking for?
I was waiting for you to continue what you were saying, but that
so in 1994 they made Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which has Kenneth Branagh as Victor Frankenstein. I love Kenneth Branagh. And it's got Robert De Niro as Frankenstein's monster.
That's actually really...
Yeah, and Helena Bonham Carter as Elizabeth, but then something happens to her and they make her into like a Bride of Frankenstein thing. John Cleese is in it as Dr. Waldman.
So wait.
Ian Holmes in it.
And that was which... Oh! And that was what year?
1994.
1994.
And it's on... This one is actually on Amazon Prime if you wanted to check it out in your own time. We probably wouldn't review it, at least not now, because we're doing this one. Not yet,
yeah.
We don't want to do a Frankenstein back to back, but...
No, but it'd definitely be something I'd be willing to do for sure. like a monster season of...
Yeah, maybe sometime next year if you guys really want it. Like, here's Robert De Niro as Frankenstein's monster. What do you think of that?
That is sickening.
You're right.
In a good way. That's pretty bad.
Because you expect it to be like green with the bolts coming out of the neck, but it literally looks like he's got stitches everywhere. And you really can't tell it's Robert De Niro. You
really can't. I mean, honestly, at first glance, I wouldn't really be able to tell unless I really looked at him.
Yeah, it came out around the same year as the Dracula with the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Which is Christopher Lee, right? No. Christopher Lee was 60s.
Yeah. Let me look it up. Bram Stoker.
Ian Holm is an old Victor Frankenstein. Which rest in peace to him as well.
That's God, I miss that man. He died fairly recently, but
June 19th.
So Bram Stoker, Gary Oldman plays Dracula, and
really
Keanu Reeves plays Jonathan.
Holy shit!
Harker, and Anthony Hopkins plays Abraham Van Helsing. Let me see, Winona Ryder's in it.
Oh, then I'm already in love.
So this came out. So Bram Stoker's Dracula came out in 92. So then that started a thing where they were like, "Oh, we should make Mary Shelley's Frankenstein," and it didn't do as well.
No, which is a shame because they have an all-star cast there.
Yeah, I mean, Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, she wasn't really all-star yet, but
no. What does it say on the thing? I mean, it does say 49% even on Rotten Tomatoes. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is ambitious and visually striking, but the overwrought tone and lack of scares make for a tonally inconsistent experience, which I don't know how that is, because
I don't think the point of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is to scare you. It's to make you question humanity.
And I think this is the part where it really just becomes one of those things where people just need to step back, because you know that's what made this 1931 original film such a masterpiece. It has
100% on Rotten Tomatoes as of the time of this video.
Yeah, it does. It does not have any jump scares.
No jump scares
at all.
There's some unsettling bits. I mean, maybe these things were defined as jump scares back in the day, but it's like hearing a person screaming or seeing him sneak through the window out of the periph. Like,
it's why Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho is still scary in that final scene today.
Mm-hmm.
Which, spoiler alert, skip a few seconds ahead if you'd like, but Norman Bates staring into the camera.
Yeah.
Just with a demented smile. Because it's so empty. That is the thing that that makes this Frankenstein, this original Frankenstein, such a great movie, is because Boris Karloff is so stone-faced.
Yeah, you loved the beginning part of the credits because because it does that classic old movie thing where it shows the credits at the beginning and at the end. And in the beginning part of the credits, when it says monster, it's just a question mark.
Yes, that was very amazing. It was, and it shrouded such mystery.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was in The Mummy. Oh, yeah, you told me that.
He plays the mummy, yes. And yeah, he's in a lot of... Him and Bela Lugosi, they really did a lot of movies together. Like, a lot of things that would be considered horror back then. I feel like they wouldn't really be considered horror now. Because there's not a lot of blood. There's no blood in this movie, I don't think.
You know, what really makes a good horror film is because everybody likes to define a horror as, you know, blood and gore. But like my instructor would say from my college is that atmosphere is what makes it up.
Exactly. If you can have all of the guts and all of the slashing and all of the jump scares,
which Saw proves.
Yeah, you can have it all in the world, but your horror movie is not going to stand out unless the people watching, the audience, are involuntarily gripping their chair to the point where nail marks are put in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. When you're gripping your seat or you're sitting there with such unease, because for me it's very hard to scare a person like me, but if it's really good, I'll cringe. Exactly. I will visibly cringe.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it such a good movie. So that was very, very well done in that aspect.
Yeah, and I more see Frankenstein now as far as what genre it is in now. I'd say it's more of a think piece, really, because it makes you question, like, if you have the ability to do something like make someone come back to life, should you? Not can you? Should you?
Yes. Which during this film, Victor, when he first resurrects
Henry. See, even we do it.
Yes, Henry. One of the first things that he says,
"It's alive." Yeah.
He says that I now know what it feels like to be God.
Yeah, you immediately were like, "Nope, no,
you are going to hell."
Yeah.
And you know that was the most frightening thing. The fact that and it's something that's very scary today. That the fact that people think that they can play God.
Yeah, like that was a big theme in like the Jurassic Park movies,
which we are doing if you keep up with the news. People are trying to find a way to reanimate animals, and it's a very questionable thing.
We have, like, how many movies saying it's a bad idea? 5 currently? 6 soon? Like, come on. Like, oh, how many video games? Turok? Like, hello? Well, Turok's just an alternate planet, but, before we get into... Are you alright?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get into the movie and the breakdown, if you guys want to pause this and check out this movie for yourself, because like with most of the movies we review on the show, we do agree you should see it yourself.
Definitely.
Especially this. This is if you want to be taken seriously as far as like being a film expert, this is one of the movies you have to see. And like just really sit and think about it afterwards. So if you want to do that, it's currently available for rental at the time of this video on Amazon Prime Video, Vudu, Google Play, iTunes, and YouTube. So if you want to pause it, watch it, come back.
I'd highly recommend.
Me too. High recommend, because...
And even if you're not, and I say this in the most, respectful way.
Here we go.
If you do not like black and white movies and old movies, please.
Yeah.
And I say this in the most respectful way possible. I cannot emphasize this enough because this is what I had to tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
Get the fuck over it. Because
in the most respectful way.
Yes, I mean in the most respectful way. And that's what I had to tell myself, and that's what you have to mentally tell yourself. Because, until I really took the time to watch old movies and get over that, which thanks to Nathaniel here, I've been opened up. He's the one who helped me see Parasite, which we did at an Oscars nomination marathon.
Your first ever foreign film.
Yeah, that I actually got into, and it, Parasite was amazing.
That led me to showing you Battle Royale, which you still love.
Which is great. And it also, before that, led me to actually taking a chance on The Lighthouse, which I immediately just bought because I couldn't see it in theaters, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Which we will be covering two very good directors on this podcast eventually. We will be doing Ari Aster. I think is how you say his name, right?
I think so. That sounds right.
Ari Aster and Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
Because they have two features out. Robert Eggers' The Witch and The Lighthouse, which are very reminiscent of classic films like Frankenstein, with the modern touch of horror.
It really sets the tone.
Yes, it is very non-jump scary. It's more about the tone and the environment and the circumstances in which our characters find themselves, which is what made Frankenstein such a great movie and chilling still to this day. And same thing, but when it comes to Ari Aster, it's very, very body and visual horror with the sinister overtone of storytelling.
Yeah. And
the uncertainty of the human mind and what it's capable of.
Exactly.
When given the opportunity to do specific things. As well as toying with the supernatural. So we will definitely be doing that sometime in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And like another thing that I love about black and white movies, it's like the people in these films, they are incredible actors. They're great performers. It's amazing what they can do and what they can make you feel with how little at the time that they had, seemingly.
And with their studio setups, the props and the love and care is when you can tell it's fake, but it looks so real at the same time.
Exactly. And us watching these movies and us loving these movies, it really, because I'm pretty sure all of the people in this movie we're talking about and all the people involved in this movie we're talking about, except for maybe the kids that were in it, are dead. And this is like a way for us, at least, to like
keep them alive.
Yeah, keep their legacy living by enjoying their films. Because I feel like that's what they would have wanted.
Yeah, which I'm just gonna say, I'm 19, and seeing these movies really, really brings that good feeling to my heart. That it's something that a generation has missed out on. It's something that most of the time we just look at special graphics. When I started deciding that I wanted to go to college at IPR and decided that I wanted to be a filmmaker and pursue that passion, it really made me realize just how much I wanted to tell a story.
Yeah.
But build it up not because of money, not because I want to just be famous, not because I just want to say this and that and go, oh yeah, this is my statement, or public, F you to everybody. I wanted it to be about passion and love and bringing people back to an age where it was the most creative, making a film because you can make a film. It doesn't need to be guts and gore. There doesn't need to be a whole bunch of sex. There doesn't need to be these over-the-top action scenes. Sometimes, taking something basic and giving it a modern touch is all you need, which is why I think John Wick is such a good movie. It's very reminiscent of Lethal Weapon and stuff like that. And I can't really go back too far because I know there's quite a few action movies that were made in like the 50s and the 40s that had some really good action. But, the 70s, 60s, and 70s is when it really started to pick up. I mean, North by Northwest, for example, is a perfect example by Alfred Hitchcock of how much power a movie can have and how the action scenes can be so memorable. That plane scene is by far one of the most amazing visually.
North by Northwest. What is the one of him that I watched? Because I have like a 15 film Blu-ray collection of his, and it's all lovely, and you get these lovely little cue cards. It's great. What is the one that I watched? It was it had Hugh Grant in it, maybe? Not Hugh Grant. What am I talking about? Let me look it up. But it's a movie that like it genuinely made me nervous, and it made me feel tense, and it's from like that's my point of, like, age of a movie has nothing to do with, like...
It's quality.
Yeah.
It does not have anything to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying earlier, too, that I forgot to say, is because I watched a foreign film and Nathaniel got me into them.
You're welcome.
I took a chance on watching The Lighthouse, and I went out and I bought it. And, you know, I disregarded the black and white. I disregarded the 4x16 format.
Oh, it was North by Northwest. Gosh dang it. That is what it was. Yeah, when the plane is, like, coming out and it almost hits him, like, 12 different times.
And it's not even by him, either.
Cary Grant, yeah.
Which makes it so good. But, yeah, when I saw The Lighthouse, I was just blown away. It really showed Robert Pattinson, too. So it really goes to show you that it doesn't matter who necessarily is in it all the time. It matters on what they're given.
Exactly.
Which, you know, a lot of people just putting it out there, like with Star Wars, the prequel trilogy, a lot of people have given Hayden Christensen a lot of shit. And I think he's a fantastic actor, which is a very unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
But he's a very, very good actor. And I think, you know, some of his other movies, given, you know, the childlike voice a little bit, but given the content that he gets, it really shows that he has range. Same with Robert Pattinson. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody likes to think of him as that vampire from Twilight. But, you know, he's got a very big range, and it's very, very entertaining and amazing to see just how much range that man has.
Exactly.
So, going into the movie.
Yeah, so first thing we get is it's a funeral, right?
Yes.
Yep. So it's funeral, and we see the gravedigger. He buries...
Casket.
Buries a casket, yes. And I love this because you hear the sound of, like, the dirt. The sound quality is so good. We're watching, like, it's a Blu-ray re-release of the Universal Monsters movies, and the sound quality is so good.
Well, I'm pretty sure that, I don't think, a lot of times, I don't think Universal and them, they don't really, like, even, like, with Duel.
Yeah.
They don't really redo the sound effects at all.
No.
They just digitally remaster them in the best ways, and really tweak them to make it pop.
You hear the dirt hit the wood casket, and you hear the shovel hit the dirt, and it's beautiful.
What's great is the backdrop, the painted background, and the way that they made all the mountain and mulch.
Yeah, the painted background in that movie from 1931 looks better than, like, sound studio sets from movies that come out today.
And TV. Yeah. And it's not just the black and white. They really took the time to make these movies stand out.
Somebody did that. Like,
and shows you can't just go on a computer and go, oh yeah,
there's a cloud and we're good. No.
You know, it takes some effort.
So then, after he's done burying it, like literally the second after he's done, Henry Frankenstein and his assistant Fritz, he's a little hunchback, you know, kind of has like, he's very like growly looking. Like when he like exposes his teeth, it looks like he's a dog growling. But they go and they dig up the grave, and then it cuts to them going to like a hanged man in like the town square, and they cut him down and take him. And then we get a classroom, right?
Yeah, which we have a professor who is giving a brain study. He's giving a brain study.
Dr. Waldman.
Yes, who's giving a example of what a normal brain looks like and the brain of somebody who is insane.
Yeah, an abnormal brain.
An abnormal brain of somebody who's chemically imbalanced. And from what I understand, you said the person was hung.
Yeah. So, the person was a serial killer. I don't know if the person was hung or not, but
yeah. Well, we can assume.
Yeah, put to death at least.
Yeah.
But they're pointing at he's pointing at the frontal lobe and like seeing how this one's more distorted and all this stuff. But then he has the class leave, and Fritz sneaks in and grabs the good
normal brain, which Henry asks him to.
Yeah, and then he hears a noise and drops the jar.
Which we can assume is like a class bell or something.
Yeah, something like that. But then he just grabs the abnormal brain. And that's really the turning point of where this all went from being an okay thing
to shit.
To awful, yes. Because then he brings that, and then we get to...
Which he doesn't think it makes a difference, because he's kind of the doofus.
Yeah.
One other quick note, too, is I want to mention how well the brain, like, veins were done on the abnormal brain. It is so...
And the fact that you can tell without any color. either.
Yeah, that the veins are there. It is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful visually.
Very nice. So then we meet Elizabeth, who is Henry's fiance.
Yes.
And she's talking with Victor, who is he's Henry's friend, and he also likes Elizabeth too. And they're talking about how she's worried about Henry because he's in this he's in this big castle area place, and he says he's doing his research and stuff, and he's doing experiments. No one's to disturb him, and she's worried, understandably.
Spending all that time alone with experiments can drive a person mad, especially knowing, depending, because I'm pretty sure she didn't know, because nobody really knew what he was working on.
No one knew, yeah.
But I mean, it would have been that much more concerning. It's one of those things like where you question with morticians.
Exactly. And then they're like, well, let's talk to his professor or whatever who taught him at university and see if we can get an idea of maybe what he's doing. And they go there and he tells him that he was getting body parts, and he assumes, oh, it's animals, who cares? And he goes, no, he was getting from people and experimenting with that. And he says it started with animal parts, but then it grew to like people body parts, and it's like,
yeah. And in which he also said that he got them to stay alive for
well, later on he says that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're like, all right, let's go to the castle and see what's going on. They don't specifically say castle, but it's a castle. Like it's a castle.
Yeah.
So they go there, and it's a thunderstorm, and Henry's getting ready for his experiment with Fritz, and they got a body on the table, and you can see like visually they have sewn his wrist to his hand, and like his arm has like stitching everywhere, and there's a covering over his face, and there's bolts coming out of his neck, and like every part of him has been sewed back. Like,
which if you want a good comparison, look up the 1931 version of Frankenstein's monster and Robert De Niro as Frankenstein's monster.
Because that's an interesting contrast as well. So then they all get to the house, and it's thunderstorming, and he lets him in, and he's very hesitant to let them in as well, because I feel like he wouldn't have let any of them in if it wasn't raining. No,
because what his work is, and we all know it would be very questionable.
It is very questionable, considerably.
And to question somebody's mental health of, I mean, it's one thing to be working with dead things and trying to put them together and working on that type of biology, but it's a whole other thing entirely too when you're basically demanding that you be left alone under all circumstances.
Exactly. This is one of the first movies in history, probably, that I swear brought up mental health as a thing that you need to be concerned about. Because they talk about that too, like that killer's brain was abnormal. He was mentally sick. Henry's acting very strange and erratic. He's very mentally sick. Like,
yeah, because I was gonna say Gone with the Wind, but that
Gone with the Wind as well. But didn't this come out before that?
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, it came out in 1939.
Yeah, this is 31.
Which I do have.
Gone with the Wind.
I know an open copy, and I have not seen it. I've only seen the end.
It's gotten a lot of controversy nowadays. Yeah, in regards to it.
About 4 hours.
Yep, it's a long movie. But it's gotten the controversy because of how the cook in the house is treated by all the characters.
I assume he's African American.
She.
Oh, she. Oh, that's worse.
Yeah, exactly. Just like not respectful. They don't. Yeah, and like I understand it's offensive now, but it's like
time period.
Yeah, of the time they didn't know they were doing anything wrong. They were being accurate to the source material. Well, in 39 even.
39.
They still had didn't they still have segregated drinking fountains?
Well, yeah, because all the way up till the 70s.
Exactly. Like, people were very naive as to what was okay and what wasn't.
I would say they knew, but
certain people knew. Some people were just like, this is normal, right? Like, this is what everyone does, right? And it's like,
no.
Yeah, no, you're very naive to how the world should work, and someone hasn't explained things to you, you know?
Exactly.
It's very, yeah. So, I don't know. It's a big controversy we don't want to get into, but... Yeah. So, anyway, he lets him in from the rain, and then they see what he's doing, and he says something to his professor of the. He said, "You said ultraviolet was the brightest light in the spectrum. You were wrong." And he basically says that he doesn't say it, but he implies that lightning is the brightest light in the spectrum because it can bring life back to things. And he's like, I've brought animals back. I had an actual heart beating for 3 weeks, and now I'm gonna try an entire body and see if that'll work. And it's interesting. It's different.
Definitely.
Everyone's like, what the frick is going on?
And questionably.
Yeah.
I mean, with reason, too.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think what also becomes that is it's very both intriguing but terrifying to think that somebody's been doing this.
Like, it's an interesting thought, but thinking about it and doing it are very different.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Very much so.
So then they start raising up the body to the top of the tower so it can get struck by lightning. So it can be reanimated. And it's up there for a while, and you see, like, all the characters in the movie just, like, react to it, and they're like, you know... Because, you know, back then, lightning was one of the scariest things ever.
Well, because, you know, by that point, the only thing that you had ever seen was the fact that, you know, something like they say in Red Dead Redemption 2 is, one of the missions is you go to get something for an electric chair. Mm-hmm. In which you take a bounty of a killer, and Arthur is basically telling him the entire time that he's going to be put in this electric chair because it's a new humane way, but, you know, it could also be that you're going to burn to a crisp.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've seen lightning. And it's funny because during that mission, it starts thunderstorming out. And you could see the lightning, which is beautiful in Rockstar's game. Yeah. And he's like, well, I've seen lightning strike a tree once, and it broke it in half, and it also saw a cow.
Yeah.
And I have never seen something so horribly disfigured and burnt.
Yeah.
To basically nothing. Mm-hmm. So.
It's very...
terrifying.
Yeah.
It's still terrifying now when you see it.
There's a reason there's like I think there's a case going on right now because they're using a thing for, like, lethal... There's a chemical that got approved for lethal injection.
Yeah.
And, it's currently being... Because it's been proven in tests that it will cause people, like, a horrendous amount of pain. And they say it's a human rights violation. So they need to, like, before they proceed with it, find a chemical that will cause no pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that goes without saying. That's one of the things that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, like regardless, like, I understand a lot of people's mentality of people being put to death. They obviously did something very horrible. But it's a thing of, like, we do it in a humane way because we're proving we're better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they bring down the thing with the body on it, the lever or whatever, and then the hand starts to move, like, a lot. And we get that classic line, "It's alive." And he says it, like, 10 times in succession, just more radically. It's
yeah.
Like, it starts out as a whisper, and then he's screaming it.
Well, not as loud as you'd think as what they do nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, nowadays when the "It's Alive" clip is played on a video or something, it's really cranked up.
It's alive! It's alive!
Yeah, when in reality it's more like, "It's alive!"
Yeah, it's more of joyful, which...
He is very happy.
I don't know how to feel about that, because I feel like, you know, and it's just for the time, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, if this was something you were trying to do, you know, and you've been trying to do it for a long time, and you had success at it, you'd feel happy.
Oh, definitely.
Granted, he probably shouldn't.
Well, no, you just brought back a dead person, and you've been doing questionable things, digging up body parts and whatever else.
Yeah, you've been dishonoring graves, and all that stuff.
Disrespecting the dead, which is something you never do.
No, God, no. Why? I get the idea that they're not here anymore, but that's more of a reason to just not...
not fucking with it.
Exactly. So then, he, So it cuts later and we see, like, the creature... I think they said he's been there for a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's submerged in total darkness all the time.
Which is already kind of setting up for...
Yeah. For the finale.
Yeah, which, for being so happy at creating life and trying to do that, you'd think that his greatest discovery or creation he'd treat it
a little better. Yeah.
Especially when the fact that he basically proclaims himself God.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If I brought someone back to life, I would be like waiting on them hand and foot. Like, you have no idea.
And I'd be more horrified than anything.
This isn't like... I feel like the scariest idea of people being brought back to life is probably, for me, Pet Sematary.
Which I still have yet to see, but I have seen the 2019 version. I do have the original.
I love that twist for that movie. Because in the original and in the book, it's their son who dies. But in that movie...
Oh yeah, it was the daughter.
It pulls a twist because you think the son's going to get hit, but then it flies off and it hits the daughter. And everyone's like, no frickin' way, what?
Yeah.
I mean, it was alluded to in the trailers, which I feel like they should have left that bit out.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that you kind of want to be blind going into.
For sure. So then he's like, I'm going to test to see how he reacts to light. So he has him come in, and that's when we get our first, like, we see Boris Karloff in all of his makeup glory. And he looks really great, and you said it yourself, he looks just dead inside.
Which is the best part about this damn movie.
Yeah, he is the best part of this movie. Like, he's expressionless, he's perfect, he's just like... And, like, he's got his eyes, like, almost up in the back of his head. Like,
everything that was done by Boris was to perfection. It's
really
not
was.
even... It's not a question. It's not a debate. It is very well acted. Everybody in here, but especially to play something so bland. It's like, I really wish there would have been a time that he would have lived longer to give more interviews.
Oh, I know. And he, like, he has got the cheek indents, which was a choice he did because he took out his false teeth to do the indents. And people always thought it was a makeup thing, and it's like, no.
No, and that's really clever thinking that he's up on his feet.
Yeah, exactly. So he just kind of walks, and then Henry tells him to sit, and he sits, and he's like, see, he understands what I'm saying.
Which I also think is a question of how do I want to say, humanity.
Yeah.
Because you understand that, like, you teach a kid to sit and everything, but it's like, you have a fully achieved man that you brought back. But the way Henry just kind of sits and looks at it, like it's less than human.
Exactly.
Is what makes it so questionable.
Exactly, yeah.
Because he's not very supportive in a way
he even calls it. He doesn't say he. I'm pretty sure. He's like, it understands what I'm saying.
Yeah, and you think that you would treat it with a little more respect because you're also dabbling in the unknown, and hence why he was so excited about his
The person who treats it with the most respect is the little girl who doesn't know any better.
Exactly, and that's the sad part, because when we get to later, you'll kind of understand what makes it
very sad.
Sad on multiple levels, not just one.
Yeah. Well, it's like, so he has him sit in the chair, and then he opens the ceiling awning, and he sees the light for the first time, and he starts grabbing at it, like he's trying to touch it, which is what I've seen infants do, because it's he's trying to process it as a tangible thing that he can feel, but he can't.
Yeah.
But then frickin' Fritz ruins it all.
Which
we can both say we hate Fritz, right?
He was an asshole.
Yeah.
I'm glad what happened to him.
You'll see in a sec. Yeah, you'll hear in a sec. But he comes in, he's got a torch, because he's like, where'd it go? There it is, and it's
it's not pleasant at all.
And
it's inhumane.
And Henry tells him to back away, and then he's still coming up to it, pointing the torch at it, just scaring him. And I'm like, dude, give him. He's literally 5 days old. Give him a break here. Stop that.
Yeah, and it's hard to watch.
It is. So.
And.
Yeah.
I think part of it for that, and I think part of the reason that he did that is because of the fact that he never, he's different. He's a hunchback.
You were telling me he's probably been bullied and felt inferior his entire life. He feels inferior to Henry as well. Henry is mean to him too. He doesn't show him any respect. So now that he has something that's of lower intelligence that he can
manipulate,
and Lloyd over.
Which is not right, and that's something that's moral. I don't believe in it, but I don't believe that one should inflict that upon somebody else.
Exactly. Whether or not you have the ability, you shouldn't. Regardless,
exactly.
Yeah. So then Frankenstein freaks out the monster. He grabs everybody and he's pushing them around. But then they chain him in the basement, and he's yelling, he's screaming, and it's very sad.
It's harder to listen to than, spoiler for Jeepers Creepers, if you want to skip a few seconds ahead. It's really harder than to listen to Derry scream at the end.
Mm-hmm. Which also hard to listen to, but...
very hard.
Yeah. Well, it's just you feel for the guy. He doesn't know. He's essentially an infant.
Yes. And it's so real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then... when he hears him yelling, Fritz comes in, and he's got a whip, and he's just, whipping at him, and he's, Frankenstein's, trying to cover his face to protect his face, because he's scared, and it's, I feel like everything that he does in this movie, for the most part, he does out of fear.
Yeah, because he's just trying to...
He's trying to figure things out again.
Yeah, and just be left alone.
Yeah. I feel like if I was a reanimated corpse, that's all I would want too. Leave me alone, God.
And I think it brings up the question too of, why the hell did you bring me back?
Exactly. I was a piece. And it's a question. I brought up Return of the Living Dead with you. Where, the reason the zombies in that eat brains.
Which, spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. We'll cover that probably next year.
I'd say so.
Yeah. The reason the zombies eat brains in that movie is because that's the only way they don't constantly feel pain, because they're corpses. And it makes sense to me, so I feel like maybe he's constantly feeling pain too.
Well, I mean, I have to imagine, because he's also sewn together. Nothing is truly
if
authentic.
You hate having stitches, imagine him.
and it's not authentic to the real body at all anymore. It's all just dead tissue that's been put back together.
It's not even the same guy. It's multiple different guys.
Multiple different people put together. Which, and it seems immature when I say this, to ask this question.
But here we go.
Did he ever have genitalia after that?
I was thinking about that too.
Because, I mean, to think, it's an immature question, but it also is a good question because...
maybe he's so angry because he just needs to be.
Well, he can't. But I'm like, does his biology still work? And how would that feel?
Yeah.
To know that, just being naked as well and seeing that every part of you, there's not even a single part. Because, that's one thing for males, definitely, is just, you look down and you're like, I'm a male, that's something that's fragile to me, and it's the thing that can literally start a family.
Exactly.
So, when I ask it, I'm like, how would you feel if you look down and realize too that the one also thing that makes you a male, that makes you living and able to start a life and be normal, is not even yours and not even real at that point? Yeah,
because the brain is of someone else entirely, so none of these parts are his.
Yeah, and they're not real, so how would you, feel to see that every last bit of you, including the one thing that can help you create a life, is not even... there.
Exactly. So Fritz is whipping at him, and Henry comes in, he's like, leave him alone, get out of here, get out. And he's talking with his professor of what he should do next, what should happen with him, should he try teaching him other things, or should he put him out of his misery? He's very adamantly against that, and Walden's very for it. And then we hear a scream.
Yeah, which, is questionable at first as to who it is, and then we realize...
Well, they say, one of them says, Fritz, and then they run down to...
investigate, into which we do see the horror of that time, which is actually still pretty bad. I said it.
Yeah.
I said I hope that he ripped his arms off, but it's still pretty graphic even for nowadays too to see that Fritz has been hung.
Yeah, he hung him with his own whip, and it's very much
by his neck.
Yeah, it's like if we found it disturbing in 2020, imagine how the people in the theater in 1931.
Which there is a warning at the beginning of this. Yeah,
I was just about thinking that too. A guy comes out of a curtain and he goes, "We are about to show you," like da-da-da-da-da. And he says, "It may frighten you. It may shock you." Like that very classic thing that's been quoted 1,000 times. And it's a warning of like, if you think any of these things will bother you, get up out of your seat and leave.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that warning is valid. Because I'm assuming if they didn't have something like that at the beginning, I feel like people would sue.
I don't think they would have sued as much as it just would have been...
boycotted it, maybe?
One of those things that would have been... Well, I don't think that, because people don't really think like that back then. It would have been something that really traumatized people, and it would have made a whole group of people extra paranoid about what people were doing.
Exactly.
I think it wouldn't be about a boycott. Everybody likes to do that now. In 2020, we like to be spoiled little bitches. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that was a thing that started in the 70s, too.
Yeah.
Protests and boycotts,
but that was for more racial reasons, understandable reasons.
Yeah.
When it comes to movies, I think what it would have been is that it probably would have put a bunch of people into mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Because during that time, I mean, it is the early 1900s, and we're just really coming out of the old Wild West era, into which people were very superstitious back then and very, very heavily religious.
That's how we got all, like, the cryptid stuff.
Yeah, like Exorcist was so inspired by. And...
Yeah. But so anyway, he tries to break down the door, Frankenstein, after they open it and see Fritz's dead body. And he's like, he's like, he's gonna break down that door. You stay over here in case he gets out. And Walden's like, I'm gonna go get a syringe to knock him unconscious. And he comes out and they're both like fighting with him. And he gets injected with something, but it takes it a while for it to like take effect. And he's like choking both of them out and like hits them both in the head pretty hard. And then he falls down. And then they put him like on a table because they're gonna kill him, right?
Yeah, they wanted to put him down for what he did.
Yeah. Henry's still a little hesitant, but he's more not now, which good. Like, he killed your assistant. Maybe take initiative here.
But, I mean, he deserved it. I think that's one of the jokes in Big Mouth, too, where Maury is talking about his dick that got eaten.
Yeah.
Which sounds disturbing out of context unless you've seen the show, but he kind of makes the joke that, he was just an assistant who couldn't even write stuff down, which, in defense, too, is kind of how I saw Fritz.
Yeah.
He was a dunce. He couldn't even do the simple thing. And, this could have all been avoided had he just told Victor or just picked up the brain and said, I'm sorry, I messed up.
Yeah, because Waldman told him, because he's like, you should know what brain it was. It was stolen from your science lab. And he's like, the one that was stolen was the brain of a murderer. And he's like, oh no. And then we got the scream of Fritz and he killed him.
Right.
So then, like, his dad comes because he's wondering when they want to set the date for the wedding. And Henry's dad. Because he owns the whole town. This whole little German village.
Very wealthy.
Yeah. So they get it, and, like, as they're, like, Waldman says he's going to take care of it and kill the monster. And he's like, go, have your wedding, whatever. Henry's still very hesitant and anxious. But as they're leaving, Frankenstein wakes up and you just see his arm move and like grab him and kill him. like he pinches the back of his neck.
Which I wanted to make a joke, but actually I was just too like,
yeah.
That's pretty horrifying to think about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we see Henry, he doesn't know, he's genuinely excited about the wedding. He seems like he's well adjusted and he seems different as well.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of experienced and kind of seen what this thing can do, and it's kind of changed him.
And he's like, well, I've done my thing, time to be married and live my life.
And I think he's trying to, and I think it's a way of repressing it. Putting his self-conscience
Putting it aside, putting it on the back burner.
Easing himself, because he's responsible for a person's death, whether he was stupid or not.
Yeah, as he knows one person.
Yeah, still killed a person.
Exactly. So then the monster escapes. And
yes.
I think, does Victor tell him that he escaped before the little girl scene? I think so.
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah. And we see, like, he tells him that, and he's like, don't worry about it. We'll deal with it after I'm married, because we're getting married in a few hours. Elizabeth's very worried, too. She talks to him for a bit. And the town looks very happy, which you said it looked like it was shot weird.
It was shot weird. I don't think it was sped up, necessarily, but I think it's because of how fast everybody was moving.
The windmill scene was definitely
sped up.
The
windmill sped up. But I think it was more about, the camera era of the time and just how fast everybody was moving.
Well, you said it yourself, outdoor lighting, it looks great.
Outdoor lighting is great, and I really don't think from, like, just a filmmaker and, like, on-set person, no. I'm not the best at gaffing. But I don't think they really had to gaff as much for those old films at all, because they were basically the natural lighting was already there. Mm-hmm. Also a cool photo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool. So anyway, then there's a little girl, and she's talking with her dad, who's a farmer. He's got to go do some stuff and can't play with her. And then Frankenstein monster comes out, and she's a little girl, so all she knows is that it's a man, And she's like, "Will you play with me?" And it's very sweet for a second, because they're both so innocent, and she like hands him some flowers, and she's like, "These are yours, these are mine," and he's like smiling, like this is the first time we've seen him happy,
Right.
Because this is also the first person he's met who hasn't tried to kill him.
Yeah, or hasn't been like, "You're an abomination, let's lock you up right away."
Exactly. And then she like tears off the heads of the flowers to make them float, because they float in the pond. And she's like, "You try," and he does. And then he gets another idea, which sucks.
And it's questionable whether he was intended to do it or not.
No, I don't think he meant for what happened to happen. And you see visibly he feels very bad.
And I think it was more about he was just trying to have fun.
Yeah.
But it's that part of non-understanding and the part of his brain that's a serial killer that kind of got a joy out of it. Like, oh, this may be bad, but also it might be really, really, really fun.
Yeah.
But he basically picks up the girl, and
she says, "You're hurting me. Ow, stop it."
Yeah, and to which he then throws her into the water, and
she drowns.
She drowns, unfortunately. And you could tell visibly that right away when she doesn't come up. Well, you see him bend over and try to scoop her up into what she can't, and he visibly freaks out and just feels absolutely terrible realizing what just happened. And he runs away for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm.
And then there's some more wedding stuff with Victor and his dad and Henry. And I feel like there's something else that happens, but not that I can remember. But
nothing big.
We see the farmer walk into the town holding his daughter's corpse. And it's very like, if that is a real kid, that actor is phenomenal.
Yeah, she really went completely
limp. Head back, like just like very limp. Like it looks like that's a dead body, and he's like carrying it. He looks traumatized. Everyone he walks past, like the music is slowly stopping, and they're like, you said you saw some kids crying in the background too.
Yeah, and it was hard. It was hard to watch because if he really knows the kids. Like, one girl looks like she's sobbing, and one other, and the others just kind of look like... The others just look kind of like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
just happened?
So then he tells, like, the Burgermeister, who would be, like, the mayor. And he's like, she's been murdered. And he's like, we'll find whoever did it. And Henry gets word, and he's talking with Elizabeth, and... Because Victor says he found Dr. Walden's body in the tower, but the monster's not there.
Right.
So he locks Elizabeth in her room, and he's like, we hear it, and they go upstairs to see where it is. And then she's pacing around, and it's a beautiful scene, because you see him in the background, and he comes through the window, and he's about to grab her, and then she turns and, like, starts walking the other way and doesn't even notice. And then when she turns back, she does the classic scream and, like, holds her hand near her face, and she's, like, running from him, and he's chasing her. And they break down, they hear her, they start to try and open the door, and by the time they do, the monster's gone, and she's, like, passed out hysterical on the bed. Her dress is ripped, and it's like, it's ambiguous.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's like so great that
it's one of those things where the implication is better than showing what possibly happened, because your mind just wonders, like, did he hit her? Did he do other stuff? Like, who knows?
Yeah, and it's the mind of a serial killer. And the whole time you're realizing, too, and what I really liked about these older movies, because everybody liked to take the approach of more that he was a monster. And, you know, that's not what he was about. What it really came down to is just how...
He was scared. He was really scared.
Yeah, he never meant to harm anybody or, you know, and that's what really made this movie.
Like, imagine how a child would act if it had the strength of an adult. You would have holes in your floor. Like,
it'd be like Chucky if Chucky was more of a doll than a human serial killer.
Exactly. So then they get a torch-carrying mob going, literally. And they're like, the father of the girl, he'll search the woods. Henry, you search the mountains with this group. You guys go with this group. I'll search the river with this group. And they're marching, which I got a question. A torch-carrying mob going through a forest is probably not the greatest idea.
And we all know what my response to that was.
You laughed, right?
No, I said they were from the 30s, which in this time period they were from the 1800s.
Yeah.
Hence, they were kind of a little stupid.
Not a lot there. So they search for him for a bit, and he kind of hides from some of them for a while, but Henry sees him, and then him and Henry get in a scuffle, and he beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, which I wasn't surprised, because duh.
Yeah. Well, and I loved the scene we get before with him and Elizabeth before they go. Because she's like, let's just get married and have them take care of it. And he's like, no, I have to do this, like...
It's my responsibility.
Yeah, and I like him. He's a very redeeming moment, because he kind of goes from crazy wanting to play God to taking charge. And, like, really understand, I made a mistake, I have to fix it, it's up to me. Like, and I respect him for that, don't you?
Yeah.
It's redeeming himself in a way.
Yeah, very much. And you know, I like that. I like the touching conclusion that's what that's what we got, that eventually he realized just how wrong he was, and how, you know, while he has made something that may never be able to be made again, he has also done it in a way that was dangerous, in a way that, you know, shouldn't have been. Just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. That was the question posed in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, which, you know, it really did bring up the debate.
Yeah.
Should you or should you not kill people? Or bring back people, because they may murder people and a child.
Yeah, I was going to say, should you or should you not kill people is not that long of a debate.
No, but then there are that... God, it was like a book. It was a classic book.
It was like a book. No, I know what you're talking about.
A classic book. I was listening to it on Game Theory.
Oh,
and,
right.
Well, they were doing a FNAF lore, which is really interesting how they put that together. You know what?
Yeah.
I like FNAF, and if you actually sat
What? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not making any faces that the audience can visually see.
Right. Yeah, visually.
Yeah, exactly. What are you flipping me off for, mother? All right. So...
but no, they said that one of these books, because I think you know as a book reader that most books from back in the 1800s, like H.P. Lovecraft, let's start there, were incredibly dark.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, great writer. He has made some art. Horrible racist.
Horrible racist did like nightmare fuel all the way. It makes you think, did this man actually go to hell or the cosmic and like...
He discovered acid. No.
Right, something like that. But basically, in these old books, not H.P. Lovecraft, I think it was like a biblical thing a little bit, or something that was close to like they were implementing biblical elements.
Yeah.
From something like the Bible, in which somebody based off of
they were implicating biblical elements from something like the Bible.
Which story? I'm trying
biblical.
To think. Anyway,
it's like saying they were getting film references from something like a movie. Like,
which person was supposed to sacrifice their son in the Bible again?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. His name is not coming to mind. It wasn't Job. It was like he had to kill
Joseph.
I think it might have been. He had to kill. I should know this. My dad's a pastor, but he's
I was
not
going to say,
to this.
you out of everybody should know.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Yeah, thanks.
Which is questionable.
Thanks for putting me on blast, buddy. Really appreciate it.
You're absolutely welcome.
He was supposed to kill his son as a sacrifice to God, and God stopped him right before. And he's like, I don't want you to actually do it. I just wanted to see if you were willing to do it.
Which is questionable.
Yeah. I mean, it's a question of faith. Is the thing, because
there's that too.
If you trust him, because he would know that his son would go to heaven if he killed him. Yeah, which is better than Earth,
undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that. But basically there's this wizard or so. I want to say
it was a wizard.
It was
guy.
like a sorcerer. It was a sorcerer of some fate, in which they said, "Bring me this woman's newborn baby." Or he told this pregnant woman to bring her newborn baby to him. Along with this other woman. In which he said, now, in order for whatever I'm about to do to work, we need to cut the baby in half.
Are you talking about Solomon and the baby? That's the biblical story I feel like you're talking about.
It might be.
So Solomon and the baby, two women came, and one of them was claiming that the baby was theirs, and the other was claiming it wasn't theirs. And how he came up with a test for it was, we'll cut the baby in half. And the woman who was like, okay, let's do it. He was like, you're not the mom, she is.
Because it's like, what are you trying to do? Why would you cut a baby in half?
You listen to John Mulaney, that's why you're thinking of it. He does a whole bit on that. And he's like, what human wouldn't want a baby to get cut in half? If you saw a person trying to saw a baby in half on the street and you were like, hey, don't do that maybe, they wouldn't be like, you're the father. Like, no, I'm just a human who doesn't want to see a baby cut in half.
Absolutely, because it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Well, also, what crazy lady is like, sure, cut it in half. Why not? I'll take the legs.
I might be the mother. I'll just, take the bottom half. You take the upper half. We go our separate ways.
Exactly. So Frankenstein's monster flees into the windmill with
Henry, who I wanted to call Victor again.
Yep. See, I've been holding back that urge myself. Be stronger, dude. I'm kidding. So he takes Henry to the windmill, and they have like a little interesting back and forth scuffle type thing, because they're like, there's the rotating piece of the windmill and he's hiding behind it and moving from the inside of it out, and they lock eyes a lot of the time, and you see the shots of them just looking at each other, and you can tell how he feels about having to do this, because he knows he doesn't want to. You get the idea that he doesn't want to kill him, but he understands he has to.
Well, because he realizes that he's scared.
Mm-hmm. He realizes, I think, it's better for him to be dead.
Yeah, and I made a grave mistake.
What did you do?
No.
He made a grave mistake.
Yeah, he's being like, I made a grave mistake.
Well, you were on your laptop while I said that, so I was like, did you get a virus? Did you delete 5 of our episodes?
No.
What happened? No, okay, so yes. So then they get in a scuffle, and there's villagers outside, and their plan is to burn it down, but they don't want to burn it down when Henry's in there. And he throws Henry out of the windmill, and it's a dummy. It's a dummy.
Yeah, but
it flies, and it lands on the windmill and stays on one of the things for like a little while before moving and falling,
which was awesome,
to the ground. Yeah, it was a great effect, especially for the time. And then they burn down the windmill house. You see that the monster got stuck under a 2x4. That's the part where they fast forward it, where he's hitting the 2x4. And I think the effect is maybe that he's faster than most
possibly,
people.
Yeah.
But the windmill burns down. You assume he's dead. And then we're at Henry's house, and some of the staff say, we want to bring him some wine. And his dad's like, oh, he doesn't need wine. He's fine. Which either gives the implication of A, he's doing better and he'll be okay soon, or B, he's going to die. Don't give him alcohol.
Yeah.
So it's very, and Elizabeth is by his side. It's very ambiguous. And then it kind of just ends. Like, it's kind of just over.
Yeah, which was odd, because what was the other movie that I was talking about that just kind of ended?
I feel like we watched it together.
It might have been. You're just kind of like...
It wasn't The Faculty.
No.
The Faculty had an ending.
Society,
yeah, it
just
really just ends.
And you're just like...
Oh, no wonder
what?
I couldn't think of it, because I've been using all of my brain capacity to block that movie out.
Yeah,
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Felt good. Don't! Anyway, Frankenstein, 1931, and they show the credits and you see Boris Karloff as the monster, which is great.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's a very clever note and a very clever way to open your credits.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, throughout this movie, there's not a lot of music.
That's what made it so good.
There's an opening score and there's an ending score.
And not having a whole bunch of, fuck you, shitbag! And...
Yeah. Well, and I will say, orchestral music does add to the effect of a movie, but I feel like this didn't need it.
It didn't need it.
Like
there's a lot of movies that don't need it, but they put it over there anyway because they think it's atmospherical.
And it does. It adds something to it, but it's like...
For people...
To a certain extent, for some movies, especially like this one, you don't need it.
And you know, I'm not saying this to be offensive, but for you, somebody like you, you could watch a horror film and the music would do something for you. For me, I can fall asleep watching horror movies.
It's because you're dead inside. It has nothing to do with me.
Well, most people, the music already gets them. For me...
Most people?
A lot of people that are horror fans or of the horror genre were just not scared.
It's because you've seen every one of them. Okay? You got me to watch... You made me watch Society. That's how deep into movies you are. No one... I could
would have
walk
been able
up
to
to
find
1,000 people on the street. Maybe 10 of them would have heard about Society. Okay? That is a very cult movie.
Like Street Trash?
Exactly. If I talked to 1,000 people on the street, no one would heard of Street Trash. Like, ugh.
No, but I mean, you know, that's one of those things that, for me, music just doesn't do it for me. It takes away. Because they're too busy focusing on the, oh, it's about to happen. Oh, it's about to happen. Oh, it's right in your face. It's about to happen. Where it's just like, you know, like...
Let it happen.
Like with the zoom in on Frankenstein's face. It was great.
That's my
because there was no music. It made it
Exactly.
that much more creepy. Because there wasn't a string quartet on your ass going, it's about to happen. Oh, look at her spooky face. Ooh.
That's my favorite part about, like, Hitchcock movies. The Hitchcock pull that he coined.
Yeah.
You know how to do a Hitchcock pull, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's where you walk backwards, but you zoom in with the camera.
Yeah, it gives a really, really neat effect.
Yeah, it looks strange, and you're confused.
Foreign.
Yeah, exactly.
It really disorients the brain.
It really does. And he was a genius for doing that. He was a genius in general. So, yeah, that's the 1931 adaptation of Frankenstein. I think we both said 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Great film.
Definitely. There is no question that this is definitely the great-grandfather of all films.
Yeah.
And a
And I'm
very
sure
amazing template.
I'm sure there are people listening like 10 out of 10 you had no problems or flaws with this movie, and it's like, I'm sure there were flaws, but it's still a 10. It's still a 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can overlook any minor things for what it is as a whole. Because as a whole, at the time, terrifying movie. Currently, really good think piece.
Undoubtedly.
Makes you question a lot.
And should humans even allow other humans to allow people to do shit like that?
No. I think the answer there is no. I know people will be like,
agree.
Scientific study. Like, no.
No. There's a reason that whether you were a religious or atheist individual, that we haven't really made life.
Exactly.
And why, no matter what you can do for a person in terms of how much medical experience you may have, people will still die.
Like, there were people almost 100 years ago who did very cruel experiments on living humans. And while they did find out a lot about humans, they were also Nazis. So, not a great thing.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely a horrible thing.
And that's what humanity is.
Oh, so as a whole, yeah.
And it really brings the question too that did Frankenstein deserve the way he was treated?
Yeah.
Should he have died or should Henry have died?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
Henry
is effed up.
Henry
for a while at least.
Well, yeah, but Henry got off pretty free just by saying, "I don't want to deal with it anymore."
Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster or Henry's monster.
It would be Frankenstein is his last name.
Well, yeah, but
Henry's monster doesn't sound
Frankenstein's monster. He'll always have to deal with the trauma of knowing that he's less than human and that he's basically a monster. And it's something that he never volunteered for. It's nothing that he wanted to be. Now, whether he has a soul or not is in the question. But but still, knowing in a subconscious that you've created a different life entirely and they were not willing to do it.
I feel like, that's the thing. I feel like if he asked any of those people if they wanted to do that after they were dead, they'd be like, No, leave me alone. No, like, don't desecrate my body. Like, what are you doing?
That's why I'm concerned when I put organ donor on my license.
You don't need to be concerned about that, I don't think.
I don't know. Sometimes I question...
You question everything, man. To an unhealthy amount, I feel like.
Do you see the world we live in? And how much we're playing to fiction nowadays?
But I feel like organ donating is something that's genuinely I consent is like I am an organ donor for everything. Take everything. If it's going to someone, if you're using my whole arm to skin graft somebody a new face, great. I get to do something after I'm dead. Wonderful. If you are giving somebody my lungs who would otherwise only have one lung and be able to half breathe for their whole life and now they can run with their children, great. Fantastic. Do it.
I just don't want them to be donating me to science. I'd rather it go to a person, not science.
That's what organ donor is.
Oh, thank God.
If you have to literally say in your will, donate my body to science, not organ. Your organ donor is.
Well, see, I thought it was implied. So, hey, you learn something new every day, even if it makes you feel stupid. But I don't really care because I'm me.
Exactly. Like, no, that is one thing you can trust. Trust me. They gave Gary Orbach's eyes to 2 people. What?
Yeah, which you can look up a John Mulaney special on that.
Yeah, it's true, and he made some great jokes about it. But yeah.
But without further ado, that was Frankenstein, one of the best and great-grandfather templates to all good movies, and it really shows that age has no effect on this film. Yeah. Also, this film is about an hour and 11 minutes.
Yeah, it's not even an afternoon.
Yeah, it's not even like a feature. It wouldn't even be considered a TV special.
Is our podcast longer than the movie?
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah, okay. So, there you go.
Yeah, it's not even one of those where you can just exclude a 2 5-minute credit. It's literally like, there it is.
I can understand, like, if we recommended something and it's a 4-hour-long movie before listening, depending on the time you got, but... Yeah, this, you can take the time to watch it for sure. Yeah. You definitely should.
And we definitely wouldn't recommend Gone with the Wind if you don't know the time, because that's like a 4-hour movie. So, I mean, looking at that, or even Apocalypse Now, or The Godfather 2, all those crazy films that are like, woo!
Very, very big time commitments. The extended cuts of Lord of the Rings.
Not even just the regular, or even the regular cuts.
Yeah, I mean, those are great. I feel like you should see it, but don't put it on casually.
No, it's one of those things you have to watch.
Watch it if you know you can finish it.
And it's something for me, but the reason I couldn't watch it with my dad, never saw it, was because I was a kid and I was like,
I can't sit in the one place for too long.
It's been an hour. This feels like too long, and then I just go do something else.
Yeah, I never got that feeling from Lord of the Rings, though. I'm like, this is an adventure. It's magical.
It's adventure.
Oh, that's a decapitation.
For me, though, you got to remember, I'm a film guy. So, like, the first thing I would want to do is make my own scene with my action figures. That's all I used to do.
Yeah.
I used to make physical scenes.
Yeah.
and then get my Spider-Man or Star Wars. Like, I set up a whole diorama, and I bought, for my birthday, I bought from Toys R Us. Mm-hmm. Ah, God, memories of good stores.
Thanks for that. Now I want to cry. Continue with your lecture.
I bought about 25 clone troopers, and the same with stormtroopers from there. I made an army. I traded those for my friend for Halo because I didn't realize the value, and I was going to switch them over, and then they moved away. I lost a TIE Fighter. I lost Starkiller. I lost all the good Jedi. I lost everything. And some of them I just left there because I couldn't bring them all home at the time.
Yeah.
I was pissed. I had a Cloud Car. I had an X-Wing. I had the Wampa.
Listen, you're my friend, and you're a great guy. You have made some dumbass choices in your life.
I was a kid. Yeah. And this shows why kids...
You've made some as an adult.
Yeah, but more so as a kid.
Yeah, but some were possibly more significant as far... we won't get into any issues ex-girlfriend that he doesn't want to talk about, but...
Yeah. We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So for
the first time, for the third time, this is the end of the episode. This is the third closing out. Watch Frankenstein from 1931, Universal Monsters.
It's definitely worth a watch, and then check out some of the other monster movies because we plan on doing one more for this. Yeah,
we won't spoil, but you can probably guess.
You could probably probably by the time we're uploading this, I think what we're gonna do for the pattern is you guys will get one really special film that really ties together the greatness of classic movies and is a very big trope on the 31st. Mm-hmm. So probably by the time you're listening to this, these are the last two before you get them.
Yay!
So.
And these movies were my ideas, my credit.
Glad we had to establish that.
Yeah, exactly. Without any further ado, he's Noah Sweeto.
And that's Nathaniel Shoemaker. And this has been Film Nerds Hour.
See you later.
So long, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.